Vladimir Krajina. I am most grateful to Professor Krajina's memory. He taught me more than just science. The Jiva interview, which I gave a decade ago in Porto Alegre, sums up my feelings and expresses my deep respect for him. I paraphrase for the occasion. I have learned much from Professor Krajina in class, but he commended my highest respect for his sense of freedom and courage, outspoken nature, fairness to others, unusual liberality. Don't think in terms of present-day, the present-day Liberal Party, but in the Aristotelian sense, having an open mind, willing to consider an opposite view. And special kind of humor. All who,
No, it's fine.
all who knew him well should want me to mention his deep love for his homeland, the present Czech Republic, and his Czech nation. And very, very important to understand him and his life in Canada. His exemplary citizenship, for which he was made a companion of the Order of Canada. You don't have to give up, and you shouldn't give up your total identity to be able to be an exemplary citizen and as good as anybody else in another country. Two fateful events stirred me closer to becoming a statistical ecologist. Still at UBC, the department head of botany at that time, the good man, Professor T.M.C. Taylor, showed me the 1963 edition of Numerical Taxonomy. It was authored by Robert Sokol and Peter Smith. Professor Taylor knew my background quite well. He also knew that I was doing some multivariate statistical analysis in my graduate research. He told me he would gladly help me. This is an incredible offer from an incredible man. To get the necessary funds to support me on postdoctoral training with Bob Sokol. Of course, I jumped on the offer, but I told him that I would prefer to have postdoctoral training with Professor Greg Smith in Bangor in the UK. I knew about Peter Greg Smith, and from his book, which he published in 1957, it was titled Quantitative Ecology. His brand of ecology appealed to me more than numerical taxonomy, simply because I was not a trained taxonomist. Application done, NATO Science Fellowship received. Martha and I rolled into Bangor on a Volkswagen, directly from Volksburg in Germany. On a bright Monday in May in 1964, Professor Greg Smith welcomed us in his rather well-populated lab, I wanted to experience all aspects of the work that they did in the lab. I decided, therefore, to do a quick survey on the sand vegetation survey, not the population in the lab, on the sand dunes of Newborough Warren on the Isle of Anglesey. The survey kept me and the good Martha in close contact with the field botany and ecology, but often in gale force winds, rarely without drizzling rain, and never without a pullover. For about a month's work, I got exactly the data that I wanted. Let me say something that is not directly tied to my science, but it is very interesting as far as the Isle of Anglesey is concerned. On the odd clear day, we could see clearly from the sand dunes of Anglesey the hills across the Menai Strait in the direction of Carnarvon Castle. Not far from the castle, further to the east, in the highland, are located the ruins of Segontium. Segontium, the Roman fort, from the 1st to the 4th century AD. Now, the Segontium story started to interest Martha. We were surprised by the facts Martha turned up in reading of historic documents, some in Latin. They contain no mention of the sand dunes on the Isle of Anglesey. Knowing the Romans, it's impossible that they would not have written about the magnificent extensive sand dune system. But then later we found out why. The Roman legionaries and the auxiliaries abandoned Segontium 1,000 years before the sea, the ocean started to bring the sand to the Anglesey shores. So the dunes were not more than about 500 years old when we were on it. Now it's 50 years older. By the time of my arrival in Bangor, the foundations of community-level statistical ecology, often called quantitative ecology or even mathematical ecology, have been laid. I don't want to give a review, but I have to mention a few names to give a taste of what quantitative ecology was like at that time. I mentioned A.S. Watts' 1947 work on plant community pattern and process. Greg Smith's seminal work on scale and pattern that he published in 1952. Goodall's paper on ordination. In fact, it was Goodall in 1959 that coined the term ordination, and it stuck. It hurt my ear at the beginning because ordination meant something else to me, but that's a fact. Williams and Lambert, W.T. Williams and J.M. Lambert produced their papers in 1959 on association, on us, and a whole host of ecological topics. And at that time, Goodall was already working, David Goodall, the grand old man, on simulation modeling, not mathematical modeling,